to my silent script writing. So, ang format ho nung gagawin kong 5th episode ngayon is, ito yung paglusob na nila Olga din sa nakidnap na mga bata. So, doon ko lang nilalaro kung ano yung pwedeng opening. So, ano nangyari nung 4th episode, ang nangyari is nagalit si Olga kay Morris because kasi walang pakialam si Morris sa mga bata. I think continuation sinusulat ko. So hopefully magustuhan po ninyo ito. Okay? Hello, good evening. Rainy. It's very rainy. Thursday. Okay. Ito yan. Yeah. Ay. Yun. Ba't ganito na naman? Ano yung mga ito? Wala na naman yung liwanag. Paano ba ito? May napindot na naman dito, hindi ko alam.
Liwanag saan? Liwanag saan?
Ito. Nawala yung liwanag. Gusto ko maliwanag na ano. Ayun, nagkulay pula.
Hindi, meron yung ano. Ano yun?
Parang dito eh. Ito, ayan. Ano ba ito? Ito, cloudy nakalagay oh. Ayan din.
Alam ko may inaano dyan.
Ang pangit, nakakawalang gana pag ganyan. Ayos mo.
Alam ko
ang purebred swak inaaraw-araw ko. Para patibay siya, ng patibay, ng patibay. Para sa patibay na buhay, purebred araw-araw. Sweatshirt stock curls. Lalo na ang odor causing germs. Mag-safeguard lemon. Unlike non-anti-air soaps, nagbibigay ito ng up to 24-hour protection laban sa odor causing germs. Bring it on. Safeguard. Aroy, ang gusto niyo ba? Hindi ba nilong plastic? Iskila na yan.
Lingawan mo nga daw yung screen mo, Dad. Parang
Mula eh.
hindi ko makita yung ano eh, yung pinipindot namin sa laptop eh.
Sa ilalim lang oh. Hindi talaga ako marunong. So, kailangan ko pang paalam sa... Anyway, the script is ongoing. Yeah, medyo matatapos na siya. Kailangan ko lang naman dito unahin yung mga... Kasi yung katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, yung ibang cast available lang Saturday, yung iba na hindi. So, hahati-hatiin ko muna yun. Okay? So, kaya ito siya.
Miss Nainay. First signs ng sakit, istorbo sa tulog, fixed vapor na bagal. Naging hawas sa sintomas ng ubo.
Doon ka na daw kay nanay.
Ataw sa acid pawis.
Pwede. Kita.
Sabi daw.
Kagat.
Sa gabi ko o palayo. May total expert protection with the help of new needle-free glass. Now with 40 protectors with 50% more DHA. Grow confident again.
Habol sa akin, lahat na lang kayo.
Mag-serve Sun Fresh. With
Kulit!
technology. Mas
Kulit!
natin pagpulot pa.
Ay ka na, kulit!
Kami pinatuyo sa loob. Wais! Serve Sun Fresh.
Yung normal,
Problems?
Napaka-arte po. So arte.
Kulit!
pag-arayan sa Helios Campaign International Resource, most prescribed by doctors. Kaya,
Ano ba kulay mo? Bakit kasi erong ako dito?
Kasalubong ka din ngayon. Dahil sa dandruff yan, you need Head and Shoulders. Unlike beauty shampoo, tanggal ang dandruff that causes kape. Head and Shoulders. Ay rated SPG. Stick ng taglupan at kamay ng ukulan. Ang kailangan, maaaring may masisirang tema, lengguwahe, karahasan, sexual, horror o droga na hindi angkop sa mga bata.
Becca?
Sino si Becca?
Tawa niya. Buntis, buntis tayo.
Yung kaninang umaway dun sa babae?
Hindi. Yun yung nilalagay ni ano. Wala siya. Wala na siya.
Bakit? May kabit yun.
Hindi, asawa niya yun. Yan, nahanap niya. Wala kaya, no?
Ipapaayos ko na lang sa lawyer ko yung hatian ng investment ko sa resort.
Bakit nga siya iniwan?
Masyado siya kay Ivana. Kasi nakikita niya yung nararamdaman.
Yeah, I'm going. 7 minutes. Hello, good evening, everybody. So, this is Brownie again. Konti lang, mga idea lang na ano, na kung gusto yung basahin. Kung gusto yung basahin. So, unti-unti,
Papa, ano ko?
balik ang una, tapos tignan yung gitna, tignan din yung magiging dulo nito, yun ang magiging problema ko. Anyway, yun naman magiging problema kasi nga, yung opening na kailangan ko, yung Saturday. So, yung Sunday na yun, siguro ma-insert na lang ang gagawin ko dito para at least hindi rin sayang yung sinut namin. But ito na yung main, ano, yung content ng episode 5. Okay? Yan.
wala.
Eh bakit nagbago isip mo?
I don't know. Maybe I want a normal house. With a dog. Tulad ng gusto mo. Gusto ko rin.
Ganyan siya pagkakasulat. Pagkakap naman si Ivana, naging pa naman yung ano. Kain ka ba? Binili niya yung ate yan.
Andyan lang sa lamesa eh. Sabi ko ito pa sabihin. Kanina pa nga eh. Dito pa kumain, Dad? Kumain na. Oo naman, nagugutom.
Yay! Back to school na! Pero, di dapat back to germs. Switch to Safeguard. Laging mag-hand wash para laging protected.
Oh. Siyempre, habang magawa ka ng script dapat, na-backup.
Ay, ako naman yung ano. May bracelet.
May backup na tinapay.
Ito pa no. Salamat ko to, boss. Ako, mahal.
Magkano?
28.
Grabe ko.
Eh, pagpapalaman ko nga ngayon. Wala ko naman umutang ka.
Pinalo na martilyo yung ulo.
Sinagad mo.
easier.
Pumutok.
Ang galing yun. Kaya,
Labas utak.
sabi mo.
That's done. Carry on. Fix inhaler.
Sabay kagat na.
Laki din, no?
Pwede mo na itutuloy.
Thursday.
Hindi natin
Tiwala ko ni Edward, katulad ng pagtitiwala sa kanya.
Tayo.
Kasi pagka tinubos mo, 20 na. At 29. 30. 1,000 na lang, ano mo na.
Bilis na sina Jay at Alice. Pero si Valerie,
Taas ng Japan. Ang ganda ng ano mo. Ang ganda ng
Saan bumili?
Ha? Yung pin, yung suki ko.
40 days.
Alam mo yung tinignan natin, yung sawungan.
Oh.
Yun.
Hindi po sila.
30 to 3 to 1.
Iba talaga ang kulay. Wala.
Oh.
Buti na lang nakasala ako ng 3 years.
Ikaw hindi na.
Bakit nang pretty totoo ba yan?
Ha? Ori ng tatay niya.
Sino?
Mayaman na yun, no?
Sila
Iba
niya.
na.
Ban.
French, di ba?
Hindi.
Ala,
Hindi. Saudi yan eh.
Alawi.
Mayaman yun.
Naman kasi tatay niya, ang dahil pinawanan. Kamukha nung anak ni Pacquiao. Hindi pogi. Di ba no, Nana? Kamukha. Yung pogi na anak ni Pacquiao, ah.
Yung boksingero.
Oo, yun.
Yung ate niya maganda din. Hindi pangkal sa
Ay, hindi ko pa nakikita yung
bihira
anak.
lang ayaw mo sa akin.
Ah, kala ko siya yung panganay.
Panoorin mo yung silang dalawa. Isa maganda. Ganda. Kung matangkad.
Ah, mas maganda sa kanya.
Matangkad.
Ito kasi maliit eh, no?
May birthday yata yun.
New Mayor of General Luna.
Hindi nakita niya yung sulat.
Ang sulat.
Yung sulat. Ngayon doon niya nalaman na sila pumatay sa tatay niya. Sa kasalanan niya. Hindi niya alam sila.
Sinabi doon ng tatay niya na anong meron sa sulat?
Na sino ang pumatay? Yung sumulat, yung nakakita.
Ah, shucks.
Tapos yung papel na hawak-hawak ng parang sinto-sintong lalaki.
Hala, eh bakit ano?
Tapos sinagaw ni Gerald yun, nananakit siya.
Eh, ba't tinabi niya pa yung sulat? Yung bobo
Sinabi
lang
niya doon sa Merlo. May, yan, nakita.
Kaya nga, ito di niya na tinabi. Pero sabi ng director, dapat makita. Ano yan?
Yung mga fantasy.
Ano nga yan?
Kaya Andario.
Ah, yung ano siya, ghost siya. Gawa mo natin ko rin.
Bitin. Kape.
Ano yan? Naka-live ka? Ba't tiniiwanan mo?
Ano yan?
Naka-live ka. Silent stream. So, walang nanonood?
Hindi, wala. Kaya mo lang. Yung ano. Yung parang ano na. For the purpose na meron pang ano.
For the person.
Oo.
For the person.
Eh, nasa 3,850 na ako.
Na
Watch out.
Okay, kailangan may manonood. So, naka-open yan mamaya. Siya mo ba? Sino ba yung OC mo pumunta dito nung ano? Pangit niya.
Tuwawa naman si Nice. Yung girlfriend niya, bata.
Silent naman daw.
Ste. Hindi na. Nagtebo mo na nga yan, no? Cellphone mo. Lobat na. Tingnan mo nga. Sino ba to? Kumakita. Hindi na lang nakita yung salamin. Very good, very good. Ay, 100 na.
Yan.
Mali, ayaw kalimutan bukas maaga sa tuloy na. Ang mahanap eh.
Tender heart and a beautiful smile.
Clever girl. Stick to the script.
Di ba alam pinatay ng ilaw?
If anything ever happens to Claire Fitzroy, deal's off. I will come for you.
Please. Remove yourself from my personal space.
Lunch. Let's go.
Where are they keeping Six?
Basement, most secure floor.
Should have put a bullet in his head.
He tortures 30 of the best operatives in the world. Why would I waste an asset?
He spits his gray man. He's not gonna do anything you
He
say.
will. As long as I have the girl, he will.
It is very dangerous for you to start thinking for yourself.
Are you threatened, any? I'm pleasantly out of character. Would you rather I be floating in the
I
Potomac?
got Lloyd's autopsy report. They pulled a 9mm from his chest.
And I told you Six got my gun.
Killed Lloyd, left you alive?
That's right.
Guess he didn't perceive you as a threat.
That would be his mistake.
What's Six's current condition?
He's been unresponsive the last few days.
What do you mean, unresponsive?
He's just lazy. Can't tell if it's psyops or medical. Won't eat, won't speak, won't even look at us.
Brain damage?
It shows up on the scan.
Oh, shit.
All right, move grip. Lock down the perimeter. Six the runner. Repeat, Six is the runner.
With me.
Yes, ma'am.
When do we get to go home? I asked you a question.
Satisfy your ultimate mind. Trying out a dream. Your sign is carried on in every corner of your mind. Says you remain my friend until you're mine. Silver bird, lead your way, silver bird, make her all
Okay. Yan ang mga ano to, mute. Yun, parang yun.
大丈夫なんだ。
Quick. We can't hold it back much longer. Hurry. Come on.
The sentence of the court is that in 2 days hence, the perfumer journeyman, Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, shall be bound to a wooden cross with his face raised toward heaven. And whilst still alive, be dealt 12 blows with an iron rod, breaking the joints of his arms, his shoulders, his hips, his legs. He shall then be raised up to hang until dead, and all customary acts of mercy are expressly forbidden the executioner.
In 18th century France, there lived a man who was one of the most gifted and notorious personages of his time. His name was Jean-Baptiste Grenouille. And if his name has been forgotten today, it is for the sole reason that his entire ambition was restricted to a domain that leaves no trace in history. To the fleeting realm of scent. In the period of which we speak, there reigned in the cities a stench barely conceivable to us modern men and women. Naturally, the stench was foulest in Paris, for Paris was the largest city in Europe. And nowhere in Paris was that stench more profoundly repugnant than in the city's fish market.
Here we are. We'll get another box.
It was here, then, on the most putrid spot in the whole kingdom, that Jean-Baptiste Grenouille was born on the 17th of July, 1738. It was his mother's 5th birth. She delivered them all here under her fish stand, and all had been stillbirths or semi-stillbirths.
You all right?
And by evening, the whole mess had been shoveled away with the fish guts into the river. It would be much the same today.
Shit.
But then, Jean-Baptiste chose differently.
Wala. Hindi kaya yun. Baboy.
Shoebox.
Miss, nagaling ka? DJ Salvi, merecer na astig na may dating ba?
무언가 있었다. 그 기다란 어둠 속에는.
가방에 손대지 마. 좆됐어, 씨발. 손님들 달라붙었어. 신고를 했다고? 어떻게 된 거야? 상부에서 비공개로 지시했대.
일로 오세요, 얼른! 제 뒤로.
뭐 어떡하냐. 잘 갈렸다. 잘 갈렸어.
헤헤.
그냥 확 덮쳐버리시죠.
야, 저거 이제 한 발밖에 없잖아. 잡아. 야, 좀 살려.
야, 이 새끼. 그 사람 안 나죠? 일로 오세요, 얼른. 제 뒤로. 이거 어떡하냐. 잘 갈렸다. 잘 갈렸어. 일어나냐, 너 총알하네. 기가 막히게 만든 아까 짭새도 얼굴 봤어야 되는데. 저거 총이야, 저거 총이야.
누구다? 살아있는데.
시들시들해. 거의 막 갔어.
이걸로 마무리하죠. 이제 리스크가 너무 커.
잘 살아있는 거 알면 돈 보내올 거야. 그지 형.
스타일이 안 맞아.
오!
내가 결정해.
일어나냐, 너 총알하네. 기가 막히게 만든 아까 짭새도 얼굴 봤어야 되는데. 저거 총이야, 저거 총이야.
누구다? 살아있는데.
시들시들해. 거의 막 갔어.
이걸로 마무리하죠. 이제 리스크가 너무 커.
잘 살아있는 거 알면 돈 보내올 거야. 그지 형.
스타일이 안 맞아.
오!
내가 결정해. 알았어?
그럼 결정된 거지. 토한다. 아픈가?
더이씨. 야, 형수님. 일로 좀 나와봐. 아이고. 오, 영주씨.
근데 이름 뭐라고 하지?
백수대낮 서울은행의 공연 강도가 들었습니다. 경찰이 용의자를 잡고 있는데 얼굴을 가린 데다 사각지대를 치고 실제로 낙동개비 넓은 데 가득 활개를 치고 범행을 벌인다해서 붙은 절편인데요. 오늘은 경남 서울에서 발생한
하지만 낙동개비의 특성상 범행 흔적이 없을 뿐 아니라 출처를 알 수 없는 전문가보다 뛰어난 범행 기술로 인해 공처럼
다시 한번 이른바 나토깨비 사건이 발생해 충격을 안겨주고 있습니다. 오늘날 12시경 신장서 한시 의사는 생활연구소 앞으로
검찰은 3년 전 낙동깨비 사건 중 80년 이제는 이것을 받아들여 이런 사건과의 결성을 발견합니다.
대사들 보내는
힘들어. 죽겠는데.
Ik zeg het nog één
거기 왜 그런 거야?
Oren moeten nu echt af.
날 때부터 그랬죠 뭐.
그럼 평생 아무것도 못 봤어?
Naar de douche.
아닙니다. 아주 가까이 있는 건 보여요. 근데 누가 50일 했나 보죠? 아? 밖에 누가 온 것 같은데요?
거긴 누가?
아니요, 왔는데 여기
손들어 누구야? 누구야? 됐지요. 아 왜 이래? 왜 이래? 내가 누군지 알아 이 자식들아. 알아.
야, 너 받아 먹었으면 빨랑빨랑 팔아야지. 소문 다 났잖아.
헛소문이야 헛소문. 알았어. 근데 이거 이쪽 손이야.
잘 생각해. 거짓말은 들키면 재미없는 거야.
나 거짓말 안 해. 이 손이야 이 손.
열어.
아이씨. 야, 이 새끼들아, 사람 무섭게 봤어? 너 언제야? 시끄러워 죽겠으니까 빨리 가라. 뭔 말인지 몰라? 서로 연사 안 쳤으니까 빨리 꺼지라고 이 새끼들아!
이제 봤지? 죽여.
죽여도 되나?
돼, 죽여.
저놈아! 야, 죽었어! 이런 거는 잘 죽는다.
정말 안 보여?
뭐 하는 거야? 그 새끼 안 죽일 거야?
경찰이 오면 명심해. 넌 날 못 봤지만 내가 널 봤어. 응?
빨리. 뭐야? 어느 쪽이야? 야, 다쪽으로. 아씨.
야, 남학생, 나 좀 도와주면 안 돼? 나는 너 몇 번 봤는데. 너 이 동네 살지? 근데 그 교복은 어느 학교야? 너 나랑 말하기 싫은가 보구나. 야, 남학생, 너 이름이 뭐야?
하이야.
화이? 이름도 특이하네. 잘 가, 화이야. 이거 잘 먹을게.
Ate, mag-ano ka, alam ka na 2:30.
어차피 신고도 못할 돈인데 죽이긴 왜 죽여?
걔인가 도덕적으로 문제가 좀 있더라고. 사기꾼이야, 사기꾼.
그래도 전직 검사야. 잘못하면 일이 얼마나 커지는지 몰라? 그리고 니들 죽이려면 다 죽여야지. 그 한 놈을 왜 살려둔 거야? 왜 일을 계획대로 안 하고 감정적으로 해? 이럴 거면 계획을 뭐
그만해,
하는...
알아들었으니까. 어차피 이게 계획 아니야?
Sa gitna, patay mo dito sa sala.
이따 목욕 가자.
싫어요.
어디 뭐.
에이. 다녀왔습니다. 왔어? 허야. 어디로 왔어? 아빠 계속 보고 있었는데? 과수원 쪽. 아빠한테 전화하지 그랬어. 왜 힘들게 걸어와? 네? 오늘도 고생했네. 이거 써.
애한테 너무 많은 거.
남자는 주머니가 빵빵해야 되는 거야. 알지?
전 이거면 빵빵해요.
오는 길에 별일 없었지?
네, 아빠.
오늘 수고했다.
네, 아버지.
아빠 전화해.
먹고 싶다고 말했나?
아니요. 원래 좋아하시잖아요.
같이 먹자. 잠깐만.
야, 범수야, 너 총알에다 뭐 짓한 거야? 어?
맞췄어?
박사 갔어, 박사. 오. 나이스. 야, 우리 아들 이거 올림픽 보야 돼. 가만 보면 우리 아들 못하는 게 없어. 어? 야, 연습 그만해. 밥 먹자. 어? 일로 와. 일로 와. 근데 범수야, 이거 뭐 총알 이거 뭐 쓸데나 있겠어? 어? 우리나라는 칼이 최고야. 아야, 이따가 밥 먹고 아빠랑 칼싸움 한번 하자. 어?
석태형 이제 늙어가지고 씨발 완전히 마탱한 거 아니야? 어디 갈수록 이렇게 뻘짓거리만 하고 있냐? 아니 설거지하는 사람 생각을 좀 해줘야지 말이야. 내 구역에다 이렇게 설사를 싸질러 놓으면은
맹이는?
아 몰라. 쫄아가지고 제정신 아니긴 한데 모르지 뭐 또 씨발. 내가 볼 때 석태형 이제 비전 없다. 좀 더 큰 바닥에서 놀아야지.
맘때문이야? Lainnya lampunya. Nanti langsung pakai kayak malam di mainannya. Kita suka pakai lagi kayak lampunya.
You've got the idea. GoDaddy has the domain to make it happen.
Everyone knows the top names of boxing. Everyone knows about the famous ear bite of Mike Tyson. Everyone knows about the upsetting loss of Sonny Liston against Muhammad Ali. But boxing has many secrets that are yet to be unveiled. Moments that were recorded on camera. Moments that if you were to see them, you wouldn't believe your own eyes. For your luck, today here at Boxing Matrix, we will be reviewing stories, statements of witnesses about stories of boxers outside the ring. Take a seat and prepare. This is Boxing Matrix. Enjoy this video. Our video starts with the youngest heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson, in 1986. A prize fighter and gang leader, Mitch Green had been an in-ring opponent for Tyson during his rise to the top. He lasted the full 10 rounds with Tyson in 1986 in Madison Square Garden, 6 months before Iron Mike became the youngest man to win a world heavyweight title by terrorizing Trevor Berbick. The much taller Green heard the final bell by clutching and holding the 5'11" Tyson in close. But their rematch on the streets of Harlem at 4 a.m. was a short, savage affair.
I'm a dangerous fighter. I'm still hungry. See, Tyson got a mansion, he got a yacht. I ain't got a mansion, I ain't got a yacht, but I got God on my side. That's a hell of a lot. Oh, good. But this is gonna be a fight. It's not gonna be a fight. It's not gonna be a box match. It's gonna be a fight. It's gonna be a grudge match and a rematch. He hit me and he ran. He mocked me. This is gonna be a fight. Tyson, you know it. You hit me, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
Green was already furious at Tyson, having claimed that promoter Don King had underpaid him and desiring a lucrative second fight that he was unlikely to get inside the ropes. Green, however, had another reason for confronting Tyson in August of 1988.
I want me some Michelle Susie Tyson. You don't get like this phony clothes. Long brother, and weaving baskets. You train. I want me some Michelle Susie Tyson.
He was a member of an infamous New York gang and thought Tyson's entry into his territory in the early morning hours was a freedom he could not allow without losing face. Tyson was in Harlem to visit a clothing shop called Dapper Dan's to pick up an $850 white leather jacket. At this point, Green, who had been told of Tyson's presence, stormed into the shop bare-chested and spitting insults at his sworn enemy.
11 o'clock that afternoon or morning, and I fitted for some clothes. And so we were supposed to come later, but we hung out, we partied, drinking, and we were in D.C., so we drove all the way back. And so we came back, so let's go up there and get my clothes. We went in there, I got my clothes. We were all laughing. Walter Berry was in there. We were all having a ball. We went, everybody was laughing in there. So my back is turned to me, but everybody's laughing. And all of a sudden, everybody stopped laughing. And I'm talking stuff. Yeah, these bitches, man, can't you imagine that shit? I'm waiting to get myself. I turned around, Mitch Green's in this motherfucker.
Tyson had been out nightclubbing and drinking beforehand. Nonetheless, he claims that he was trying to play the role of a corporate, endorsement-friendly champion at the time. So, Tyson replied, "Now, Mitch, you must consider what you are doing. I do not think that this course of action in the long run is advantageous for your health. a statement that should have been taken seriously by Mitch.
He was talking a lot. He was just talking a lot, and I really thought he was grabbing for my pocket, trying to pull my pockets out, because if he rip my pack, all the money will fall. But I won't have a chance to get my money. I have to fight this cat, right? And then my money's to the wolves. So anyway.
What followed was an undeniably violent beating. Tyson claims it started when Green ripped his shirt pocket, forcing him to retaliate. Green's version is that Tyson turned his reins around, then sucker punched him.
Right? I didn't want, listen. When I was fighting the screen, right, because he was on Angel Dust. And I was wondering why I was hitting this guy, and he was like moving, but he wouldn't hit the ground. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? My hand is hurting like a motherfucker.
Right.
And
You tase him, he's ripping it out of his chest.
yes, I hit him, boom, I hit him with a shot, and he was out, right?
Right.
So I get back in the car, and I said, all right, let's go. And then,
But Tyson undoubtedly landed the first punch, and several more followed. Tyson claims that Mitch was high on angel dust, so he probably wasn't going to hit him back. He was hitting the guy over and over again, but he wouldn't go down, until he did a Bruce Lee type of kick on him, and he finally fell. However, as Tyson and his driver headed to their car, a zombie-like Green popped. Tyson put Green down again, but when he tried to make his good escape in his Rolls Royce, his driver told the champ that they could not move, as Green was under the wheels. Blood got up once again and tore off one of the car's wing mirrors, further enraging Tyson. This time, Tyson got out of his limousine and landed his signature punch and an uppercut. This time, Green fell straight to the concrete. Not a pleasant sight.
so I get back in the car, and I said, all right, let's go. The next thing you know, he busted came up. It's just like Jason. He got up, and I'm in my car, and he breaks. I'm in a Rolls Royce, and he breaks the fucking the side view mirror. The mirror, what's the side view mirror?
Yeah.
He breaks it off. I come up for 1 minute, please. I go out, I fucking beat the shit out of him. Boom, I hit him, his head hit the fucking concrete. I said, oh shit. You know when people head to go, boom, you hear that shit? Like, oh shit. So I got in the car and I said, let's get the fuck out of here.
Tyson was frightened that he had truly killed Green following the incident. However, by the time the police showed up at the scene at 5 a.m., they discovered Green still alive, but with facial bruises, a swollen shut left eye, and a terrible gash on the bridge of his nose.
Oh, fuck, out of here. I thought I killed him. I was so scared.
And this is right on 125th, right?
Yeah, I was so happy the next day in the paper they showed him
Right
with
with
his
his fucking
eye. Yeah, I was so happy. I know he wasn't.
bro. And Walter Berry was there.
Yeah, Walter was feeling bad. Mike, I feel bad. I don't like to see you. And I said, Walter, this is disrespectful.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, this is a disrespectful.
The confrontation would not be the last time the pair crossed paths. Mere days after the incident, Tyson couldn't believe his eyes when, while out on a date in New York, he spotted Green cycling past him on a bike. Tyson assessed, but he was wrong, and a verbal confrontation ensued until Tyson's date cooled things down.
What's interesting here is this guy would rob the gas station. This is what he would do. So if there's not enough money, if it's too early, he got there too early, he would tie the guy up, hide him under the gas station, and start pumping the gas and taking the money. Pumping the gas, Mitch Green,
He's a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. I'm my right-handed car. He would pump the gas and got the guy.
Green went on to try and win the battle on the court, but it was pointless. Moral of the story, don't test Tyson on the streets.
I walked in the store, and Mike Tyson hit me in the eye. And then he pulled his glasses off. Did you see his eye? His eye was just hanging out his head.
Larry Holmes versus Trevor Berbick. After his 1991 comeback fight at the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood, Florida, against
I watched you work out on that punch bag. Now, you're an enormous physique, but everything seems to spring from your legs and your stomach. Is that true?
Yeah, I just punch with snap my shoulders and my legs. Bring the punches together, accurate precision.
You see, you tend to me to come up under
No,
people.
because you misinterpret it, because the object of the game is like when I hit the punch, like the punch, boom, boom, and then I twist it, boom, and I'm at the side where you can't hit me. Like if you expect me to be here and you don't punch it here, you don't punch it here, but I'm here already, and I'm perhaps gonna hit you already a couple of times. See, and you're interpreting that I'm jumping in the air and I'm going boom, but I'm not, you're not punching me. It's twisted.
Oh, try nyo. Basta soy.
Wow, sarap. Tsaka, I feel come in. It's important that I use BB and smaller, that I move a lot more. Straight down the middle, hammer fist. Boom. The headbutt is always optional. This is the worst place you want to be. Leaning my head off. Boom. Boom.
My momentum is coming forward onto that punch. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Street Fight Survival. And today we're going to be taking a look at how to fight against somebody who's bigger, broader, and possibly taller. And it's a common question we got asked as well. in the comment section of the previous video, so if you haven't seen those, make sure to check them out. Today we're going to be going through kind of break and escape, but also some more of the preemptive.
Yeah, and the conceptual stuff that comes with it, things that you can do that will keep you safe against someone who is a lot bigger and taller.
As always in these, and fair enough in this situation, I am going to be the bad guy because I'm the bulkier, blunter one. You know, I'm the bigger muscle, I'm a bit broad, I'm likely to have stronger grip strength and all that. And that's what we're fighting against.
And it's just intimidating. It is.
Yeah.
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Being extraordinary with MX3.
Before we were using Monday.com, our team was drowning in work. Our days used to split between work and managing work, but Monday.com just took care of all of them.
Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain a history of violence. This movie tells a story of a man who owns a diner and lives happily with his family in Indiana. However, everything changes when he accidentally defeats the armed robbers at his diner and is accused of being a hitman. What happened to him after the robbery? Let's find out in A History of Violence. A History of Violence begins by showing two men named Jones and Billy, who have just come out of a small shop on the outskirts of town. Since the drinking water supply had run out, Jones asked Billy to come back inside and get some water. After Billy re-entered the shop, he saw corpses strewn and blood splattered everywhere. Jones and Billy turned out to be a gang of robbers who often targeted small shops on the outskirts of town as their target. This is quite reasonable because these small shops are generally minimally guarded, making it easier to carry out robberies there. When Billy was filling the water, suddenly, a little girl came out of hiding. The girl seemed to be hiding there while the massacre was taking place. Not wanting his actions to be caught, Billy took out his gun and did not hesitate to kill the innocent little girl. The scene then switches and shows a man named Tom Stahl, who is about to open his diner in a small town in Indiana. Tom has a son named Jeff, who is a high school student. That day, Jack was seen participating in a baseball game and managed to bring his team to victory. However, while in the locker room, Jack was approached by a young man named Bobby, who looked annoyed that his team was defeated by Jack's team in that match. Bobby then challenges Jack to a fight. But because Jack doesn't want to get into trouble with anyone, he asks Bobby to stop bothering him and embarrasses himself by saying that he is indeed a coward who is afraid of Bobby. Because everyone seemed to be amused by Jack's outspoken attitude, Bobby finally chose to leave and leave him. Tom and his employees seemed to be cleaning up in the evening because the shop was closing soon. There were only 2 customers who were still finishing their food there. Shortly after, Jones and Billy were seen entering the diner and ordering food from Tom. Tom then politely told the 2 men that they were no longer serving any orders because the shop was closing soon. Hearing this, Jones looked irritated and immediately snapped at Tom. Not wanting any trouble at his diner, Tom relented and served them. Tom then told his waitress to go home first because it was late. However, when the woman headed for the door and was about to leave, Billy immediately stood up and blocked her, then treated her harshly. It didn't stop there. Jones then pulled out his gun and threatened Tom to hand over all the money. Tom did not then just stay silent. He can easily immobilize Jones and Billy with one quick move, although his leg is injured from a knife stab. Everyone who witnessed Tom's actions was suddenly shocked because they did not expect that Tom, who looks ordinary and always polite and friendly to others, could beat criminals like a professional killer. After that incident, all local and international media reported on Tom's heroic actions and considered Tom a real hero because he was able to defeat a gang of ruthless robbers alone. Tom's wife, Eddie, then picked up Tom at the hospital to take him home. People seemed to have gathered outside the hospital and greeted Tom as a hero. Even when he was home, several reporters were there to interview Tom, but he politely asked them to leave and said that the action was normal and anyone could do it. When Tom entered the house, Jack welcomed his father proudly because he had now become a hero. Meanwhile, Eddie looked out the window and saw a black car parked not far from their house. She thought they were the media crew who wanted to interview her husband and didn't care much about him. A few days later, Tom's diner is back to operating, but this time, the diner was packed with visitors who wanted to meet the hero. So many visitors came. Eddie even came there to help Tom and his employees, who seemed overwhelmed by serving the visitors who kept coming. A group of men dressed in elegant suits came to Tom's tavern shortly after. Their leader, Carl Fogarty, later referred to Tom as a man named Joey Cusack. However, Tom denied it and said that his name was not Joey Cusack but Tom Stahl. Carl then took off his glasses and asked if Tom recognized him now. He still denied it and insisted that his name was Tom Stahl. Even Tom showed his identity card to him. But Carl didn't care about it and then left the place with a sly smile. After their departure, Eddie then called Sheriff Carney to report 3 suspicious men who had visited their diner. After receiving the report, Sheriff Carney immediately approached Carl's car and interrogated Carl and his henchmen. But Carl said that he just wanted to enjoy the coffee sold there. After that, Sheriff Carney met Tom and Eddie at their house and told them that Carl was a crime boss from Philadelphia notorious for being very ruthless in carrying out their criminal acts. Even so, Carl and his henchmen always escape prison because they have a lot of money. Sheriff Carney then asks Tom if he has a problem with Carl and his henchmen, but Tom then said that Carl thought he was Joey Cusack. Yet Tom didn't know anything about Joey Cusack. The next day, coinciding with Sunday, Tom decided to go to his diner to calm his mind because it was accidentally closed that day. While Tom was sipping his coffee thoughtfully, he saw Carl's car parked in front of his shop and watched him. Not long after, the car was gone from there. Tom, who thought that Carl would come to his house, then rushed out of the shop and called his wife as he ran to his house. Tom then asked his wife to take a shotgun on top of the cupboard in case Carl and his men attacked them. Long story short, Tom
Yeah.
Be wowed by Vitasoy Plus Milky. So delicious, so good for you.
He also knows that the bar is involved with the mafia, but does not question it too much. This really upsets Marv, who knows the mob will be pissed. They were robbed of $5,000, and he assures Bob that the Chechen mob, who own the bar, wants the money back. The next day, Bob picks up the dog and confesses to Nadia that he doesn't know how to take care of it. Together they go to the pet store to buy supplies. They also make a name tag for him. Bob names him Rocco. All the time they are spied on. Chavka, the face of the Chechen mafia, shows up and reveals that he has captured one of the men responsible for the robbery. The man is gagged and impaled to the van floor with his right foot. Chavka asks if Marv and Bob know this man. They both say no. Chavka, like Marv said, was not pleased when he read the police report that mentioned the broken watch. He lets it slide, but tells Marv to find the money. Marv freaks out because if he knew how to find the money, that would mean he had something to do with the robbery. Marv meets with one of the robbers and reveals that he is in on it after all. He has to end up somewhere. The mob bosses randomly choose a bar every night. He changes hands all night long, but it's not money you can deposit in a bank and it has to end up somewhere. The mob bosses randomly choose a bar every night to serve as a vault for the whole city, a drop bar. Bob is a bartender at one of these bars. He is a humble man who just does his job, visits the church on Sundays and never takes communion. During a late walk home, he hears a whimper and finds a pit bull in a trash can. Nadia is curious why he's invading her driveway, and before helping him, she takes a picture of his ID just in case. Together, they patch him back up. Bob agrees to come back in a few days to take the dog. Outside the bar, two brothers plan a robbery, knowing full well that it's a drop bar that can get them into big trouble with the mafia. They proceed and enter the bar masked and armed. Marv, Bob's cousin, warns them that this is a bad idea, but they still demand the money and he gives it to them. During the robbery, Bob notices that one of the gunmen has a broken watch, and because they beat the bouncer to a pulp, an ambulance has to be called, which also involves the police. Detective Torres shows up to investigate the case, and Bob slips out that one of them had a broken watch. He also knows that the bar is involved with the mafia, but does not question it too much. This really upsets Marv, who knows the mob will be pissed. They were robbed of $5,000, and he assures Bob that the Chechen mob, who own the bar, wants the money back. The next day, Bob picks up the dog and confesses to Nadia that he doesn't know how to take care of it. Together they go to the pet store to buy supplies. They also make a name tag for him. Bob names him Rocco. All the time they are spied on. Chavka, the face of the Chechen mafia, shows up and reveals that he has captured one of the men responsible for the robbery. The man is gagged and impaled to the van floor with his right foot. Chavka asks if Marv and Bob know this man. They both say no. Chavka, like Marv said, was not pleased when he read the police report that mentioned the broken watch. He lets it slide, but tells Marv to find the money. Marv freaks out because if he knew how to find the money, that would mean he had something to do with the robbery. Marv meets with one of the robbers and reveals that he is in on it after all. He is angry because they beat up the bouncer so badly that he needed an ambulance, so the police got involved. He explains the situation with the broken watch and instructs him to get rid of it ASAP and to lay low for a while. Nadia approaches Bob while he is awkwardly walking the dog, and suggests that she can dog sit Rocco for a little extra money. He agrees and awkwardly gets her number. Marv lives with his sister Dottie. Dottie tells Marv that a collection agency has called because they have to pay for their dad's life support. She suggests that maybe it's time to let him go. Marv strongly disagrees, noting that he will get the money. Bob is out in a park with his newfound friend. When Nadia leaves, a random guy, Eric, compliments his dog. The encounter strikes him as odd, especially when he tells him not to forget to feed him. Eric later shows up at Bob's house and welcomes himself inside. He claims the dog is his and shows the registration papers, which show that the dog is chipped. He wants it back, but Bob will not let him abuse the dog any further, so Eric yoinks Bob's umbrella and sees himself out. On his way to the bar, Marv is stopped by a man asking for directions. He is startled because something about the man is suspicious. He tells Bob that there is something fishy between Eric and the man asking for directions. When they go outside to pick up the trash, they find a bag tied to the fence. Inside the bag is a severed arm with the broken watch and all the money from the robbery. Bob casually wraps the arm, and Marv is unsettled by how nonchalant Bob is about it. When Eric enters the bar, he almost sees it, but Bob reacts quickly. Marv escorts Eric out. On his way, Eric shouts to give his regards to Nadia. Marv warns Bob to stay away from the guy. He has killed people before. Marv's nerves slowly begin to fail him. Bob takes a walk to the canal with the dog, and after throwing the arm in the water, Detective Torres immediately shows up. He is suspicious of why Bob is there with an empty bag, but doesn't question it further. Torres wonders if Bob knows Eric, to which he replies not really. Meanwhile, Marv washes the robbery money. Nadia is a little upset that Bob didn't let her know that he was taking Rocco to work. He asks her if she knows Eric, whereupon she freaks out and storms off. The Chechens show up at the bar and Bob returns the money. They tell Marv that his bar will be the drop bar on the night of the Super Bowl, which makes them very nervous. Later, Nadia apologizes and confesses that she and Eric used to date. She also warns Bob that Eric is crazy and says he has killed a kid from a long time ago. Bob says he heard. They talk about each other more and
Still,
grow closer.
makuha pa rin
Marv
ako ng
finds the other
idea
robber and asks him to get into the
para
car. The
magpilin pa
robber
rin sa
doesn't want it
script
because
na
the last
ginagawa
time he
ko
saw
para
his
sa
brother was when someone else
episode
told him to get in the car. He wants to make
Kasi
sure
ako
Marv
babies.
didn't line the trunk with plastic. Marv opens it and everything is fine. The robber gets in and they go for a ride. Marv tells him they'll rob the place again during the night of the Super Bowl, but the robber refuses. The trunk pops open again, and Marv tells the guy to get out and slam it shut. When he does, Marv runs him over and kills him, then runs off and drives off in another car. After their beer drinking, Bob walks her home. After returning to his place, he finds the umbrella that Eric had taken from him. He has been in his house. Shortly thereafter, Marv approaches Eric in a cafe, gives him a beer, and wonders as to why he doesn't like his cousin. It turns out that he doesn't care for the dog, but thinks that Bob messed with him somehow and that he needs to learn a lesson. Marv says that there's a way they can fix this and both be happy. Torres gets a cop friend to show him Eric's psych file. Something in the file arouses his interest. Bob goes to ask Eric to back off and tells him that he will not return the dog. Eric says he can keep the dog if he can get him $10,000 by tomorrow 10 a.m. Otherwise he will get it back and smash its head. Bob is left speechless. He visits Marv and asks him if he plans to do something desperate that they can't clean up this time. He feels something is fishy here because Marv has told him he won't be working on Super Bowl day, the busiest day of the year. Marv yells at him and tells him that he used to be feared and respected, but lost that when he lost the bar to the Chechens. He also knows that Bob letting the old lady sit on his old stool is a slap in his face. Bob says it's just a stool. That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything. The next day he takes the money for the dog and waits for Eric. He doesn't show up at the appointed time, so he has no choice but to take the dog to his bar. He puts a gun and the money under the counter. It is the day of the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Eric breaks into Nadia's house and makes himself at home. When she arrives, she begs him to leave, but he forces her to sit down and obey his orders. He tells her that they'll do something fun for her, but they'll leave the town afterwards. Terrified, she has no other choice. The bar is filling up with people, as he notices Eric coming in with Nadia. They make eye contact and he senses something is wrong. Eric goes to order drinks. Bob asks him why he did not come in this morning and why he brought Nadia, to which he replies that she is his girl. He asks for the paper offers on the dog and says he will pay him if he keeps up his end of the bargain. Eric leaves to take a call. The call is from Marv, who is angry at him for showing up too early at the bar and warns him not to underestimate Meat Bob. He lines his trunk with plastic and heads to the bar, parking a block and a half away. Various mobsters drop off money as the night progresses. Eventually, the bar empties except for Eric and Nadia. Eric shows Nadia that he has a gun, then goes outside to smoke. Nadia cries and warns Bob that Eric plans to shoot him. Eric comes back in and Bob hands him the money for the dog. Eric asks how much for Nadia and says he'd rather have the money in the safe. Bob says he cannot do that and tells him the story about the dead kid Eric claims to have killed. Marv had a terrible gambling problem when he was a loan shark. A lot of people owed him money. The kid was one of those people. But the kid won a bunch of money at the casino and paid Marv back. But it wasn't enough to pay off Marv's debt, so no one could know that the kid had paid anything at all. Bob found the kid and shot him twice in the face. He explains in detail how he disposed of the body with lye in an oil tank. If he killed the kid, how come Eric is running around claiming to have done it himself? As Eric begins to answer, Bob shoots him twice in the face. He tells Nadia that she is safe now and can leave. She cannot believe he trusts her not to tell anyone about the shooting. Frightened, she runs out. Marv sees her and suspects something is wrong, so he calls Eric's phone. Bob answers and they both remain silent, knowing what happened and who is on the other end of the line. Chechens come and dispose of Eric's body. Chavka tells Bob to rename the place Bob's Bar. Bob says he is just a bartender, but Chavka tells him he is the new Marv. Outside, Marv sees the man who asked for directions earlier coming toward his car. He knows what's coming next. The man shoots Marv in the head. Torres comes to investigate. Marv is dead and Eric has disappeared. Bob is not surprised, because that's the kind of neighborhood it is. Torres says that Eric couldn't have killed the kid because he was in the psych ward at the time. He was saying that he did it for the street cred. He's about to leave, but stays behind, leans in Bob's ear and asks in a whisper, "I bet no one ever sees you coming. Do they?" Bob takes Rocco to Nadia's house so he can apologize for the night at the bar. In her front yard, he explains that's not who he really is anymore. He asks if they can hang out. She is thoughtful for a moment and then says, "Let me